On this episode, we blow the lid off of this whole thing. Wake up, sheeple.
The end is nigh.
Welcome to Save Every Universe. My name is Alec Garcia. I am a little short thing with a mushroom top for a head.
That's really sexy. And my name is Robbie. I'm a passionate professor who takes direct hits from Pokemon to gather data and secretly moonlights as a pro wrestler trainer.
Nice. Who were you last week?
Last week, I was Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was Chloe Frazier. We were basically the same character as you.
Basically. We keep doing that, just picking the same one.
Yeah, she spins around and eats fruit in the jungle? I don't know.
That's hot. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. So today we are talking about video game myths, conspiracies, urban legends, that sort of thing. I don't know why or how we got onto this, but as we started researching, I just fell further and further down the rabbit hole. There is so much weird stuff out there on the internet, and it is super interesting. So I'm not totally sure where this episode's going to go, but I have a feeling we're going to enjoy the ride. What have you on the docket today, Robbie?
Yeah, I think we should I think we could easily make several episodes out of this, but for now, let's break some ground on it.
Yeah.
Let's see what it does to Alec's psyche. I'm
Right.
I'm kind of in this just for the scientist perspective, because it did weird things to him.
Yeah, I was sending Robbie scrambled emails about how it all was all connected and stuff.
I don't know if I'll think the solar eclipse will end everything. It was really weird stuff, so I'm curious what he is by the end of this episode.
So just to start this off, I would like to just lay sort of a groundwork as we continued reading about this and just finding more and more weird stuff. It does seem to be that there are sort of a couple core categories of this. There's sort of there's weird stuff like the Polybius arcade game from the 80s that is intentional, the government's washing your brain with evil science and stuff and triggering you to be an assassin. It's weird crap, right? Intentional brainwashing theories. There's the urban legends that get really dark and twisted, we can talk about some of these as we go along, but the Majoras Mask thing, the kid who drowned, and dark stuff that spreads around the internet and no one knows what's true and what's not, and most of it's not, but some people believe it. And then the third category, which is where we, I think, intended to start, and
That's
then
we intended to start.
is more just speculation within the game universe itself. So Half-Life 3 speculation, that kind of, the Mass Effect 3, that kind of
the
thing.
Indoctrination theory, yeah.
Did you have any initial opening thoughts?
Yeah, so I was sticking with just in-game theories, and then Alec was sending me all kinds of crazy shit. So we kind of had to do a little bit more pre-game huddle on this, what are we talking about? Right. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Are you actually Alec? Or have you been taken by the Polybius game cabinet?
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, there's a video on YouTube that you can find that rumor has it. I'm sure it's fake. It has to be. Is it fake?
The Polybius game thing?
Yeah. It is fake.
Okay, so let's just break it down. Explain it.
So this legend goes that in the 80s, there was this arcade game called Polybius that was released in a suburban area, a suburb of Portland or something like that. It was a very limited release inside of this little area in Portland. And that it was causing nausea and all kinds of physical ailments in kids.
And an aversion to video games.
And an aversion to video games. And then at the arcades, men in black suits and stuff would come in, download the data off of the machine, and then leave. They wouldn't take the quarters, they wouldn't do anything else, and they would just vanish. So the theory is that this was a brainwashing machine devised by the government to brainwash the youth, kind of thing. So, but there was actually, since we're on the topic now, there was a really interesting article on Skeptoid where he kind of debunks it. But he explains how those types of myths arrive and how this one in particular arose. That in the 1980s, there were actually government agents and police officers lurking in dark corners of arcades, watching kids, because they became places where kids would sell drugs to each other or sell stolen goods.
Yeah, they were crime hotspots.
Yeah, that
they of course drew the attention of these mysterious
officials
men in black.
And stuff. Yeah. So, and they actually went as far as setting up a whole arcade with ATM style cameras in them to watch what the youths were doing, to bust drug deals, that kind of thing. So the government aspect of it is kind of true. And then there were actual medical reports of kids who had seizures. Right.
It wasn't much, but there were.
And some of them were playing, some of it was, I think one of them, a kid had drank Coke and played Galaga for 24 hours straight, and then he just passed out and got really sick or something like that. So, but all of that happened, it was a perfect storm of weirdness where all of those things sort of happened at once, and then this myth just started to sort of build over time.
Right. But he wasn't able to find a single legitimate version of it, of the actual Polybius And he said, like,
no one does.
And he said, no, like, real collector, anybody who's actually, like, a professional, anything from that industry will actually claim to have seen it.
Right. And all
that makes
like,
it pretty...
I mean, there are pictures floating around the internet of, like, the City of Portland Gaming Commission, like, stamp of approval for this game. Like, I don't know. It looks like really good Photoshop jobs, but, like, there's, like, no other records. But it's super interesting. And so now on YouTube, there's floating around this video where someone claims to have gotten the original game software on the ROM, and if you put in these codes, it unlocks like the brainwashing program inside of it, where it's like you can set the high pitched noises that come on the radio, like the public emergency announcements, can be like the trigger that turn you, like, give you insomnia,
activate
and, like,
you,
activate you, and all kinds of weird stuff. So, but at the end of it, there's like, it's like brainwashing activated, and it's like the swirling colors with like white and lines, and it's like, it reminded me of the Virtual Boy, where you played it for 10 minutes and like you just, your eyes hurt and your head hurt and stuff. It was like 20 seconds of that was like 30 minutes in the Virtual Boy. It was just, it was pretty insane.
Now, it's not surprising that like there would be like old game arcade cabinets from back then. It's not like this shit was regulated all that well, and we didn't understand, like, we were learning a lot about how, like, this, I don't know, photosynthesis, but the synthesis of light was like causing seizure. Photosynthesis is like how plants get their food. But you know what I mean?
It's photosensitivity.
Photossensitivity, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot we were still learning, so it's not surprising that some of the shit...
No, yeah, and that is a good point, though. Just in general, like, around that time, like, parents and... like, games were so new and kids were so obsessed with them. Like, no one knew what these new things were going to do to kids, right? And I think there was, like, a little bit of that fear, and there was, like, a little bit of truth in like, a couple things, then it all just sort of melded over time, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So let's transition from that into more, like, that goes really nicely into, like, what we would think of as, like, an urban legend of video games. So, do you want to talk about the Lavender Town?
I've been talking a lot. You go ahead. You take.
So,
you
I read this article a little while back. Alec read it more recently, but it was so Lavender Town is a city in Pokemon. If you play the original Red, Blue, and Yellow, it's like a graveyard town to Pokemon. There's kind of an air of mystery to it. There's for a couple reasons. One, the music is pretty fucking creepy.
Yeah, I found a video of the original Lavender Town music that was only released in Japan, and they changed it before U.S. release.
It's still creepy even in the U.S. release.
But the original Japanese one is like, it's hard to listen to. It's grating.
It's grating, and it's even the version I played as a kid, and I recently replayed through the Yellow. It's like not a remaster, but they re-released it on 3DS. Yeah. And I played through that, and it was like kind of creepy. Like, I actually would turn down my music after a while because it would, like, I don't know. Maybe it's good because it was after I had read the, like, creepypasta, whatever about it. So,
right.
So anyway, so Lavender Town's kind of creepy anyway. And there's another element of mystery with it is that in the game, Pokemon, especially Red and Blue, Pokemon don't die. They faint.
Right.
You can knock them out. But there's this mystery of, like, how the fuck did they die? Yeah. And they flesh that out later in the series. There are sicknesses and illnesses, and there are ways Pokemon can die.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like kind of creepy. Like, why am I fighting through a graveyard? When you fight through the tower of the graveyard, the ghosts are possessing people. And you have to, like, beat the shit out of their Pokemon. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, I don't know what the fuck came over me. So the whole thing is kind of creepy. Yeah. So it's easy to imagine an urban legend. So let me see if I remember correctly. So there was a kid that supposedly died in the Japanese while playing the Japanese release. Is that correct?
I believe it was several kids, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think you're right. The urban legend is that several kids actually died when they got to Lavender Town. Right. Specifically.
So it says, I have a quote, I believe this was from an article on Complex, where it says, when the game first dropped in Japan, it was supposedly linked to a massive spike in child suicides and illness. Children from ages 7 to 12 were either falling sick or taking their own lives outright. The most bizarre thing about the incident was that children did not fall ill or commit suicide until they reached Lavender Town. The town-specific music caused nausea and eventually suicidal tendencies. The music was eventually changed before it was shipped abroad.
Yeah, so that's the urban legend there. It is a little depressing. I could kind of see that, but I don't remember. I mean, to date myself here, but how old were we when Red and Blue came out? I
remember playing it in junior high.
We were in junior high.
Yeah, it was the only one I played of the Pokemon series, but we played it a lot in junior high.
I think I found that shit creepier as an adult than I did as a kid. I remember just being like, yeah, fuck it, Ghost Pokemon, whatever. But, like, as an adult, I was like, oh my god, children have died. Like, it freaked me out more. And I think, like, most of these types of urban legends, once you know that information, you're, like, creeping yourself out. Right. You're scaring yourself. Yeah. But it's still interesting. Kids aren't
thinking about that or caring about that.
There's some good articles written. There was one I read. I'll see if I can find it and link it on the website. But it was during Halloween, and the author actually put the Lavender Town music. So while you're reading this whole urban legend, you're listening to the music, and it's really well done.
Yeah.
It was really, really well done. I'll try and find it and link it on the website.
Okay.
I think it was a Forbes article. I'll find it, but it was great.
Yeah, that definitely is in the that like urban legend category. The other one was I think is fairly well known, is the copy of Majora's Mask that was just the label's gone and it's written Majora's written in Sharpie. The story goes that the guy put in the cartridge, there was a file name in there, Ben, and he deleted it and played it. And then the character as the guy was playing through it, he kept getting referred to as Ben, and he's like, that's weird. So he rebooted it, and the file was back, and it said Ben drowned. And so he deleted them both again, and then went through it, and there was like a creepy Link statue version avatar just that like followed him around and stared him down, and just the music started playing backwards and all this stuff. And so the story goes that Ben drowned, and he's like trying to reach people through a haunted copy of Majora's Mask, I guess. Yeah. So, but so I guess we should move. I mean, I guess all that to say, there is some really weird stuff out there. Like Petscop is another one we were looking at today, which is a YouTube thing. Game Theorist. It's a fantastic YouTube channel if you haven't checked that out. But Game Theorist did a video on it, but super dark, creepy really stuff. Dark stuff. So that's like stuff that is like, man, people do some weird stuff with games. Like, kind of creeps me out and makes my stomach turn. So let's move on to something. Oh, actually, you know what? I wanted to ask you as a WoW player, because I didn't know about this, and I had just found out about this, about the seventh ring of hell that's inside of WoW. There's like screenshots and all kinds of stuff. Did you know? I want to ask you if you knew about any of this. So there's a couple weird things where if you go to a certain part of a town, the kids arrange themselves into a pentagram. But then apparently for a while, there was actually a dungeon door that you could go to and you could die and it would spawn you like on the other side of the door. And it would go down into this flooded prison where there's like bodies on chains with their arms
I've been in there.
off and stuff. You have?
Yeah, that's real.
Okay, so it freaked
I don't know about the pentagram thing.
I saw video of it.
Yeah, that could all be orchestrated.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But there is a name for that dungeon. Or it's not a dungeon. It's an area under, I think it's Ironforge. Maybe it's Ironforge. I went one time. It's like something of 1,000 sins or something.
Okay. And it's supposed to be super dark.
It's really dark. There's like a bunch of people on chains and like it's underwater and it's unfinished. It was like an unfinished area. So I've actually been in that area.
Okay, so the article I was saying is like some people were so disturbed by it, and Blizzard got so concerned that they were going to because it wasn't like well known, I guess, and they got really concerned that they were going to get upgraded from teen to mature, and so they walled it off, but they didn't delete it from the game. So this creepy, horrific prison exists still to this day inside of WoW, but it's like walled off by a thing of code or whatever. And
you can get through it though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I got to it. It's not like I had special powers.
Recently? I don't know. The article I read said it was
this was years ago. This was during like Burning Crusade, so the first real expansion that I did. It's something of 1,000 sins. It was creepy. It wasn't, I don't know. It was surprisingly dark for WoW. I thought it was bullshit when I was hearing about it. But my friends and I all one night, my old gaming clan, we were like, we can fucking do this. Let's get in there. And we got, I can't remember the exact trick. It's something about you do have to die and like have somebody respawn you a certain way so you can glitch through the wall. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy. It's not that bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty blocky, I guess, and stuff like that. It's not like really photorealistic or anything.
Yeah,
like
I don't know what
but
their plan was with it. I think it was going to be like a dungeon or something. Yeah, I can confirm that actually.
Yeah, cool. So I guess that kind of segues us off to like more in the realm of like conspiracies within games and about games, and not so much urban legends and that kind of thing. So I guess I'd like to ask you, what were some of the ones like growing up? Because there was always like at least for us, it was like the pre-internet days where there was like these rumors circulating of what you could and couldn't do in games, and like half of it was bullcrap. And like, what were those ones that you remember from?
Of like in-game conspiracies?
Yeah,
I kind of remember this. Well, like it wasn't stuff you couldn't do, but I do remember in Pokemon debating about the world and like why there were only so many kids, and like I found later that there's been more discussion on the internet that there's like this conspiracy theory that there was like a Pokemon civil war that killed like most of the adults. And I even remember back then kind of being like, why is there like no adults? Like, where's your main character's dad? And
it's been a while since I played Pokemon, but as we were reading about it, like the Lieutenant Surge guy, he's like a damaged veteran, and he like tells Ash like you would never have made it in the war.
Like there's like some exactly. It kind of alludes to the fact that there was some crazy war
that wiped out most of the adults. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
So that's kind of interesting. I don't know how like well thought out my theories were when I was a kid, but And I also remember Majora's Mask, which I've read some good ones about, but even at the time that I played it, kind of being like, well, why is Link, like, leaving Hyrule? Is he, like, have PTSD over the whole thing? I don't think I would have known what PTSD was.
I remember, like,
but
I don't think I ever bought Majora's Mask. I played it at your house or someone's house, and I remember being like, wow, this is weird and
it was
dark,
weird.
and like I just never bought it.
It was just strange. Like the whole world was gonna end,
Yeah.
and like Link. It was like I don't know. There's a couple good Majora's Mask theories though that I've read since. Like I read a good one that he's in purgatory, like he's actually dying,
Right.
And each mask and like objective represents his failure as a hero,
Right.
And where he like let the kingdom down, and he's like grappling in his death throes. It's almost like his life. Flashing
like,
before his eyes.
That kind of makes me want to go back now and replay it. Like, yeah, or play it for the
Some
first
people,
time.
it's their favorite one. I didn't like it that
yeah.
much. I don't mean to turn people off who were listening, but I didn't get that into it. I found the like time mechanic to be obnoxious personally,
Yeah.
but like, and I've tried to go back, and I still am just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I also don't love Kid Link,
Right.
which is weird because Wind Waker I love.
Yeah.
He's a kid, but there's something about the anime.
It's Toon Link.
And then you brought up the 5 stages of grief thing.
That's what I had read. Yeah, that it represent that over Navi or however you say it, over her death, like he was processing through his 5
Yeah, so
stages
Navi
of
was
grief or
the
whatever.
like your companion in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And she's not in Majora's Mask.
Right.
And I'm not sure they explain why.
She's just gone.
She's just gone. And she was like, she stuck with you through everything.
Yeah, so maybe that's part of what the speculation is like, why is she gone?
Why would
after
she be gone?
Being
Yeah.
such a part of Ocarina of Time.
Right.
Yeah.
And she waits around while you sleep for 16 years or whatever.
Right.
Not 16, but yeah, she waits around for you to like sleep and then be old enough to wield the Master Sword. So it seems weird that she would just abandon you.
Right.
So the theory is that she died, and Majora's Mask is like the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
And I think they assign every race like one of the stages.
Yeah.
Like the Goron represents.
Oh, Zora and
The Zora, and yeah, I read like the Deku, like for the purgatory theory, the Deku, because you're just a little scrub.
Yeah.
It's like your failure,
like
your I don't know, impotence or ineptitude to like
Right.
actually save the kingdom.
this is all kind of making me want to go play Majora's Mask for
Yeah.
the first time because now I'm curious.
Well, you'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
No offense to those who love it, but
Some of the ones that I remember from growing up were like obviously like the Tomb Raider nude thing. Do you remember that?
yeah.
And I read an article and they were like countless preteen boys. Like I was like, yeah, I remember like all the story. You would get a story. You're like, oh, if you get on this edge of this pillar and then jump into her pool
Right.
when you're in
Well,
the
there were those
mansion
things
and
too,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And but like every week, like your friends would be like, no, I did it, and like everybody was always lying about how they
Those
pulled it
little
off.
shitty
and,
liars that
and,
we called
and you were
friends.
doing it the wrong way.
Uh-huh.
That was one that just like didn't die for like a while. Like that one went on for a little while.
Yeah, rumors of glitches were pretty popular.
Yeah.
Especially pre-internet.
Yeah.
I think there was a bunch for Mario 64 too.
Yeah, I kind of miss like old man speech here. Like I kind of miss those like mysteries of like the that you could play as Reptile in Mortal Kombat 1. Do you remember that one?
yeah.
Or that you could ride Luigi or ride Yoshi.
We know what you wanted.
Freudian slip. You could ride Yoshi if you got all the stars and went out, and he was there, and you could like greet him or whatever, but you couldn't. Yeah, so there was, I don't know, I miss those like cheeky, innocent lies basically that just floated around the gaming community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are fun. So I came up with a conspiracy recently, dude. I have a conspiracy that Chloe from the new Uncharted expansion is actually the same Chloe from Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3.
No, there's no way. That's
Yeah,
true.
dude.
There's no
I
way
think
that's
so.
true.
I think that's
Wow, you just made good on our promise that we were going to blow the lid off. This
yeah,
whole
dude.
thing.
I think I've cracked the case on this one.
Speaking of Uncharted, so I thought this one was interesting. There actually is in Uncharted 3, because the dev team that left, they did Uncharted 2, which was amazing, still the best one, I think. They went off to start making The Last of Us, but they made it kind of in secret. And there's a newspaper planted in Uncharted 3 that has scientists are still struggling to understand deadly fungus. And
Really?
So, yeah, there's it's like hidden away in a corner in a desk kind of thing. So some super eagle-eyed hardcore fan found this thing, and so they planted a little Easter egg inside of Uncharted 3, like teasing Last of Us before even anyone knew it was coming.
Well, I guess we know how Uncharted 5 goes. It is Last of Us.
Right, yeah. That's
nice.
how it is.
What do you think about the Destiny theory that the Traveler is actually a bad guy? He's the one who's been like tearing shit up through the galaxy and has brainwashed humanity.
Here's what the original this is my personal view on this. The original vanilla story was so incredibly terrible that it has to be, to me, it has to be true. There has to have been a story that was a little bit dark and a little bit edgy that it made people nervous. That at the last minute they were like, no, you can't do that. You need to change everything. And then they just kind of patchworked together a garbage story and threw it out the door and said, we'll fix it later with DLC. The mechanics are good. People will still play it.
I could see that. I mean, so one of my, I don't believe it now. I don't think that's where they'll end up with it. But I believed it more in the earlier days because it was so vague, and I was a fanboy, probably grasping at straws.
Right.
So the way it works is that because like there's one of the grunts yells like the darkness is coming when you attack them, and that's what kind of started all this.
Right.
And that the heroes of Destiny, the Titan, the Hunter, and the Warlock are traditionally archetypes that are villains.
Right.
And some of the archetypes that you fight against, like knights and wizards, and some of those other
are classically more
heroes.
good connotations to those. Yeah.
One thing that always made me kind of nervous, because I heard that theory really early on in the Destiny, like year one stuff.
Right.
And Peter Dinklage's version of Ghost is so flat.
Yeah.
Which I like. I kind of miss it a little bit. I was just talking about this with Tony, one of our former guests. Anyway, I miss it.
You and I disagree on this, but yeah.
But what I kind of believed it because he was so flat, and I kind of was like, this guy wouldn't give a shit if I died. Like, he would turn on me in a second.
Yeah.
Like, if I went over the pit and he was like, this was the plan all along.
Right.
Like, I always kind of believed it.
Yeah.
And it made me kind of nervous. Like, every time while I was playing, I was like, maybe I really am a bad guy.
Yeah.
And like,
so there were some cool things. I can't remember where it was. If it was in that Forbes article, there's a guy who just is great that writes for Forbes, by the way.
He is great. And he wrote that Fanboy Wars.
Yeah, but there was some stuff in the Grimoires. Did you read that where it was like the light and he's walking through the flowers and he goes to the flower and it turns into a ghost and it says like you are nothing but death and you will do nothing but kill, and like, so it seems the thing just rings too true for bureaucratic like cowardice. Like they had this vision for what this game was going to be, and then someone at the last minute said people won't stomach that, you have to change it.
There was some mysterious stuff in the Grimoire cards.
Yeah.
There was also I remember reading an interesting one about how like the Fallen used to be good people and like a peaceful race before the Traveler.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why would they be bad after the Traveler?
Right.
But they're kind of scrapping the whole Grimoire cards anyway.
Right.
Which is probably why. I think they're like, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to play it safe. We're too big, like too poppy. I don't think you can be this big and that poppy.
Yeah.
Like that's more of like an indie game type thing.
Yeah,
like,
it really is. Well,
Limbo
and that might be part of why they're really scrapping Destiny 1 and just starting fresh with a new sequel, is like they really have a much tighter focus of like, you are the Guardian and you have the light, and all of that became much, when they did Taken King, all of that became much clearer, like with Oryx saying like your Traveler's light can't help you here. They did a lot of really subtle stuff to really focus in the story that you're a good guy and the Traveler is a friend and you're the light and everyone and the bad guys are the darkness. That didn't exist in vanilla.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And it was just weirdly like nothing.
Right.
So,
and Nolan North voice in Ghost doesn't feel like he feels like a friend, and they even added that cool when you do the I can't say the gun, the exotic gun quest that ends with you.
Oh, the Kvostov?
The Kvostov. I'm not drunk, I swear. The Kvostov quest that ends with him like catching up with you at the end and being like, we had some good times. Like, that doesn't feel like the guy who'd like watch me drift into the abyss.
Right.
So I think you're right. I think they veered away from
So
that.
I mean, I don't think anybody knows for sure that it was exactly that you're the darkness and you're committing genocide and all that stuff, but it does feel like they were going a direction and then they did like a 90-degree turn all of a sudden, left at Albuquerque kind of situation. Yeah.
So do we have any time for any of your favorite Half-Life 3 conspiracies?
So my thought on, I think all the conspiracies are a bunch of phooey, and I tend to side in general with the idea that Steam's just making so much damn money right now that they just don't care. Yeah. So
fucking assholes.
But I will say this is that when I remember reading the reviews and playing, I remember playing Half-Life 2 for the very first time and being like, just like my jaw was on the floor from start to finish. That nothing like that had ever existed. I remember reading the articles in like Game Informer, maybe it was a Game Pro or something, whatever it was at the time that was like the popular magazine, saying that Half-Life 2 doesn't just raise the bar, it snaps the bar off and beats the competition to death. Like it was like so far above and beyond anything else that existed that I don't know, man. I would.
It's still enjoyable to go back and play. Even like it's still.
I wouldn't be surprised if like because it feels now like all the Half-Life 3 hype is sort of dying. Like everyone's just sort of accepted that we're never gonna get it. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get it, and it's like 15 years later, and like Gabe Newell is just waiting for the technology to be at a place where it was just like, holy shit, no one's ever seen anything like this. Like we talked on our VR episode, like they're investing like the Steam Knuckles and all that kind of like they are investing money in tech and innovating VR and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if it's like when this revolutionary new thing where it's like you can like run on those sensor track things and you can have more intuitive hand controls and you have like VR goggles and it's like this whole package and Half-Life 3's on that and it's like 20 years later or whatever. Like I honestly wouldn't be that surprised if that was the case because how do you follow that up? Like how do you conclude that after what Half-Life 1 and 2 both were?
Right, but episode 2 was such a cliffhanger ending, it's pretty fucked up.
No, it's really, really fucked up. No argument there.
I never saw any like legitimate Half-Life 3 references or episode 3 references either, except for Portal 2, where they actually, I think you see the ship that they reference.
Borealis.
Yeah, that's actually referenced, which kind of just pisses me off now. Like I was excited at the time, but I'm like, cool, thanks for like showing me that and then not doing shit about it because Portal 2 is years ago now.
Right.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
It is. It's like it's borderline cruel for like
it is.
But honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised if like they're just printing money through Steam. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they're just investing in tech and all kinds of other stuff right now because there are like legitimate confirmed rumors that they're developing new engines and Source 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever. And it's like I don't know.
Great, so we're going to have to sink like $1,000 in the new hardware to play Half-Life 3. Is that what you think?
I don't know. I think they're waiting. I think that it has to get to a place where, like based on what like you can read about all the employees and what Gabe Newell says, is that where it would be just so insanely exciting that no one else is doing this. This has never been done before. This is the perfect platform for Half-Life 3. It's like a long way off wishful thinking thing, but I personally wouldn't be that surprised if it comes out in like 10 years.
Yeah, all right. That's depressing.
Yeah.
So you got any good like closing thoughts on what you think about like conspiracies in general, urban legends in general?
I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's cool just that like I think gamers are just so passionate in general that we're always like digging deeper and deeper and deeper and wanting to find meaning even like to a fault, even when it's not there. And that's where all this comes from, which is good and bad. I mean, like it's like a hobby. It's like people who like dig into like the drama between a director and a producer in this movie back in this, like it was anything you're passionate about, you're going to have like speculation and arguments and conspiracy. And like, I think that's cool. I think that's really good. I was telling you before we started recording, though, I do think, though, that there is something to video games and brainwashing. I'm not saying it's a thing, but I am saying that if you were to pick a media platform to do brainwashing, I think video games, because of all the things we've said in past episodes about them being so intense and so immersive, especially with VR, that video games would be the best media platform to do so.
Do you hear that, government? If you're not doing it already. You have Alex's recommendation.
Get on My personal phone number if you'd like consultation.
So I think it's all bullshit. Mostly. I mean, I know you're a little more conspiracy oriented than I am. When I bought my Xbox One, you were like, "How do you enjoy NSA taking pictures of you while you on your
the Kinect always being connected was creepy?
Come on, man,
creeped me out.
Oh, gee, see, I didn't even think about it. And you know what? Good for them. They want to see me and my wife hooking up
on my laptop.
That's fine. You know, it's good for them. Good show. I mean, I'm not going to charge them for it or anything. You know what I mean?
It's a little creepy.
It's not happening. It's fake. But anyway. I think it is a little bit of like overanalysis. My wife and I, like with our kids watching Cars over and over again, before I know it, I'm like finding continuity slips and I'm like, how could they, this is a heinous crime. Like everyone should be immortal. Like how have they not cracked this yet? Like is death nothing? And I'm like starting to bring up like criminal law principles and I can't help it because just repetition, you find yourself liking it and enjoying it. And it's hard not to like go one step further.
Yeah.
But I have to reel it in. Sometimes even like my wife and I will be like, okay, you're going too far. This is played too many times in the house. I will say the best one I've ever heard, Mass Effect 3 Indoctrination Theory.
That one rings true to me like the Destiny 2 one, where it was like you could imagine a creative team being like, you know what'd be really cool is if like, and then the team got excited about it, and then they just couldn't have predicted how the public would react.
And just because I know we're out of time, but real quick, like it's basically proving that as of Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 going forward, the villains are actually programming you to do what they want. And if you choose the two like appealing options there's 2 out of 3 options you can choose at the end of Mass Effect 3, and 2 out of the 3 are actually what they want you to do.
Yeah.
And there's only one that you cringe at that's actually the good guy theory. So check it out. It's worth reading because it's really good. It's a really good theory.
Thank you for listening to Save Every Universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please go give us money at patreon.com/Save Every Universe.